Hi everyone, playing Conflict of Heroes Guadalcanal. This is Firefight number five. I've played through the first couple of rounds already. I'm using the action dice for action points from Awakening the Bear, 3rd edition, which is a mechanic that I particularly like. This is a really brutal, fierce scenario for a couple of reasons. One is that the first couple of rounds are set at night, so a very short line of sight. The second is that the Japanese actually start off the board, and they start on the south side of the board just here. They move their way up the board, try and take a couple of the hills which the Americans are defending, and the Americans have a few key strategic points they have to defend in this scenario. In this particular playthrough, the Japanese kind of had a good first round, were able to take quite a bit of ground, and then hit the American resistance, and were kind of repelled in a few different key areas. But they were able to take some casualties, or inflict some casualties. Sorry, the Marines lost a couple of squads already, but valiantly held off the attack. Now at the end of this round, there's actually a break. The Japanese player needs to pull some of their squads back if they're close or adjacent to the Americans here. Later in the firefight, the Americans have to do exactly the same thing, which adds a kind of unique and interesting narrative dynamic to the game. In particular, I'm going to point out this rather brave squad here were able to fend off a Japanese attack from a squad. Valiantly managed to get a brilliant dice roll that soon put pay to the would-be attacker there. So yeah, both sides are taking some casualties. I think way too early to call it yet. This is a particularly close firefight I found playing it through in the past. It is very brutal, and you're into the thick of the action almost from the get-go, which is a lot of fun. Very decisive. So yeah, I'm looking forward to getting into this more in the further rounds. I think I'm going to probably call it a night now. It's getting quite late. Then get into this tomorrow and play through the next series of rounds until the next break, and then we'll see how things fare, see how things stand at that point in time. It's a tough mission for the Marines because they've got these key points to hold, and there's quite a few Japanese counters, as you can see. But they they can hold on to those positions, then they stand a good chance. It is quite daunting, I think, for the American player in this scenario to see these Japanese horde come through the jungle, even in the thick of night, and that line of sight is very short in those night turns. But they were able to repel them. So yeah, a really strong narrative in this firefight already, which I love. So yeah, looking forward to getting back into it in the morning. So back to the game. I've just finished playing rounds 3 and 4, and I'm going to call the game there. This was a really brutal couple of rounds. The Japanese tried desperately to take this hill here, take that hill there as key objectives in those two locations, and just couldn't do it. Heavy losses on the Japanese side trying to take this hill. Mostly there's a heavy machine gun nest just there that did a valiant job on knocking back the Japanese just there. Some valiant, very fierce close combat around this area. Just managed to push the Japanese back. The Japanese just couldn't move up that hill and take it. This hill the Japanese did better. They are able to take the control point here, but again suffered absolutely horrendous losses. I think the Japanese have lost around about, I'm going to say 12, 13, 14 squad losses. The Americans have lost around 5. The Japanese also lost one of their mortar teams as well. So yeah, it was a close game. I think it could have gone either way at one point. The Japanese just couldn't take those two objectives. So these 2 rounds that I've just played, these are both in the daylight, and in the daylight with the American amount of firepower they could put onto the Japanese, and some very, very good dice rolling for the Americans to just, even in close combat, the Americans were able to defeat those Japanese squads even in close combat. And then plus on that, the Americans are able to get some more reinforcements coming from the north, and with the number of squads left on the board for the Japanese, it would be a mopping up exercise now. So I'm going to call it there. Would I play the game differently the next time round? Maybe could have taken some Japanese up here on the east side to try and take this hill as well. The risk is then, of course, you're spreading your forces very thin. Maybe, and you're not going to be able to get up there enough probably in the first 2 rounds in the night. So you're going to then be exposed in the daylight into this killing zone here. And you're going to take significant losses if you try and do that. So I think, I think the Japanese sort of tactic was pretty sound, I would say. Very bad dice rolling luck on the Japanese front and very lucky dice rolling with a couple of key decision points for the dice rolls on the Marine side. I think swung it in their favour. But a good, very fierce, close game. A lot of casualties. This game scenario has a really brisk feel. It moves at a great rate. There's lots of action. There's lots of bitter, really brutal, close combat. It's a very close game. Could have gone either way. So a lot of fun. I enjoyed it very much. Obviously, very rich historical content with this Firefight. So yeah, it was great. I'm looking forward to getting more firefights from this game onto the table. I've played pretty much every single scenario multiple times now on this game. Enjoyed them thoroughly. So yeah, looking forward to that. And yeah, thanks for watching.